by the military-industrial complex.
It could be seen to move violently forward, violently forward, violently forward.
I'm just a patsy.
Let's win there.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so
Exactly.
That's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Oops. Let's do this the right way. Here we go. Welcome to the Duke Report, a platform built to restore reason in an age of manipulation. Here we investigate the systems that shape belief. We study the structure of language, power, and persuasion, what I call epi-war, the war on how we know what we know. Our goal is to deliver tools and understanding that expose these mechanisms and return clarity to the individual mind. From the ashes of the Pacific Palisades fire on January 7th, 2025, I rebuilt this project with purpose to create a resource for thinkers, researchers, and truth seekers. At the DukeReportBooks.com, it's actually DukeReportBooks.com, you'll find nearly 20,000, let's just stop this, Peter. You'll find a bunch of books. I can't read a teleprompter. I guess that's why people call this authentic. Because I'm not really like one of them. Anyway, on the DukeReport.com, you'll find links to DukeReportBooks.com, where you'll find almost 1,000 1,500-word explainers or descriptions of books I think are the essential books that you need to read. Links to a SoundCloud where I've done almost 300 half-an-hour podcasts on the essential books, and I think that we're at about 100 3-minute videos, explainer videos on the same books. So join us on the Duke Report. Christmas is coming up. If you're looking for something to give someone and you don't know what to do, give them you can gift a annual subscription to the Duke Report, and that would help us out here on the channel. We did move to Oxnard, California, which is arguably, off the beaten path from Los Angeles, but our rent has gone up significantly, and State Farm Insurance has done us a disservice by not wanting to honor our loss of use insurance. So we are looking to make up the shortfall here up in Oxnard, California. So anything that you can do, if you can go to buymeacoffee.com/the Duke Report or become a paid subscriber, that'll help us out a lot. And with that, what I'm going to talk about today is Tucker Carlson. And I wanted to start. One of the things that I've been doing lately is that I try to kind of start the broadcast off with a framework or an ontology for the way that I approach doing things. And so without further ado, I'm gonna bring up this, what I'm calling, I gotta click on here, what I'm calling the Christian rules of engagement. And what that means, Christian, calling someone a Christian or saying that you're a Christian in certain frames is a nominalization, meaning it's kind of an Christianity. Somebody who's a Christian acts in a certain way. And I have a good friend, he lives in Prescott, Arizona, who said to me once, he said that he didn't believe that Christianity was a religion. He believed that it was a lifestyle. And I understand his frame when he says that. So with that, I'm going to take a look at an interview with Tucker Carlson today. And I'm going to try to do that with what I'm calling Christian rules of engagement. So what are the Christian rules of engagement? Well, the first thing is that you have to approach this topic with love. And I have love in my heart. I have love in my heart for Tucker and for people who I disagree with, because I think that the only way that you can build bridges is by approaching things that way. You have to use logos. Logos does not mean word. It means that which can be done with words. So I am using logos right now in order to take the ideas that are in my head and have them come out of my mouth and into your ears. So we're going to use logos today. We're going to use crisis. In Greek, the word is crisis, but in English, it's discernment. And that means to try to tease out the truth, using the words to tease out the truth by using discernment. And then you have to do that with restrained strength. So there's a word in that's been translated from the Greek, praus or I don't remember how to pronounce it, but it means with restrained strength. And we've translated that word in English, it was translated into English as meek, and meek is a word that has a connotation of weakness. And meek doesn't really mean weakness; it means restrained strength. So those are my rules of engagement. I'm going to remove that for a second. I'm going to drink some water because I have been struggling with a cold the last couple of days. And I have a little cough, and I forgot to grab my cough drops. So maybe I can get Jessica to run over there and grab my cough drops for me. In any case, I was watching an interview with Tucker Carlson the last couple of days. And well, let's just jump back to other news. I did an interview with Germ from Germ Warfare on UK Column. So you can find that on YouTube, and that was really enjoyable. I felt like I did a lot of ums and ahs. I apologize if I sound too much like Peter Thiel, but I drank too much coffee, and to do that show, I have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning and then be ready and be on at 6 a.m. And it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. So I apologize for all the ums and ahs there, but that was great. And Germ is a great guy, and he asks good questions. And I'm looking forward to doing a much longer form interview with him when I can take a deep breath and relax and think about what I'm going to say before I kind of just vomit it out onto the screen. But in any case, I did several posts on Substack about Candace Owens and what I'm calling the Charlie Kirk ARG. And for people who haven't seen that yet, an ARG is an alternate reality game. And I have a lot of background in games and game theory, and so I put all of my effort and energy into that stuff. And again, I want to reiterate, I don't look at the world as good guys and bad guys. I look at the world as assets and handlers, as far as people who are exerting their agency in media. So mediated subjects, people like me, they're either handlers or they're assets, or they're outside of that structure. I consider myself outside of that structure. And you can probably tell because right now I have 77 people watching the live stream instead of 77,000. When I get to 77,000, then you need to start looking at me, and you need to apply the rubric of MICE: money, ideology, compromise, ego, family, and whether or not those things are having influences on me. But I'm going to jump to Tucker Carlson here because I feel like I've kind of lost the thread a little bit. And let me see, I've got to click on a couple of things here. Comments, let's see the comments. And then let's bring up the video. All right, so this is in Doha. All right, Doha is in Qatar. And for people who have been following me on Twitter and on Substack, I hypothesize that the Anglo-American establishment, which started World War I and World War II out of the city of London and New York, are perhaps moving their operations to Qatar and Singapore. And the reason that I hypothesize that is because the Singapore part is because the JP Morgan gold desk it was reported that they gave their gold desk a week to move from New York City to Singapore about 2 weeks ago. I should probably go find that video. But in any case, I think that it seems to me that the Middle East, that they're trying to architect World War III right now. And that the flood of immigrants into North America, it's not just the United States, it's Canada also, and Europe, indicates to me that they want to do some kind of regime change in North America and in Europe. And in order to do that, they need to move their headquarters out of the area, the kinetic combat area. And so I think that Qatar has probably been designated as the lily pad for the City of London types. And then Singapore is going to be the chosen destination for the New York City types. That's just a guess. It's just based on metadata. That's my guess. So it's interesting because Tucker, as far as I'm concerned at this point, is an asset of the Anglo-American establishment. So it makes sense that he's either in Qatar or he's in Singapore. So it makes sense to me that he's there. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through his language and I'm going to highlight the things that I think are issues. And like I said before, I think that in the best scenario, Tucker wakes up to the ideas that I present on this show, and perhaps he becomes one of us. Germ, when I was talking to Germ the other day, he certainly had a lot of hope for Tucker's coming around, and I do. I do have hope and love in my heart for Tucker. But let's listen to this a little bit, and then I will give you some of my analysis. So here we go.
Well, Tucker, it's lovely to have you here on Viewpoint. Can I start by asking you why Americans, or if you feel Americans, have many misconceptions about this part of the world?
Well, because most people, not just Americans, but most people haven't been here. I mean, that's always the number one source of misconception.
Okay, so he starts off with it's always the number one. So Tucker loves to use the universal quantifiers, and this is by saying something that's obvious, like most people haven't been here, and then anchoring it with two universal quantifiers. He does a very good job. He's a great hypnotist. He's really he's so good. He's like the best hypnotist out there right now. But this is Ericksonian style induction, and he's done it in how many seconds into this thing are we? I can't see my second counter, but anyway, we're just a few seconds in, and he's done such a good job. So let's go.
His lack of experience, direct experience, and so I'm so blessed by my job that I can travel. But I've traveled my whole life to places, and I'm convinced that it's hard to really know what you're talking about unless you see it. And even then, it's hard to know. You don't speak the language. You're not from there. But you definitely don't have a sense of a place unless you visit it. So that's the main reason. And then there's, of course, lots of propaganda efforts going on designed to influence the direction of the U.S. government and the use of military force. And so there are sophisticated propaganda operations going on in Washington full-time, come from a lot of different sources. So those are the reasons.
All right. So he's just done a mirror agreement frame. Okay. Which is, like I said, I don't think there's anybody better at doing broadcast hypnotism than Tucker Carlson. And so he's just kind of spewed out a bunch of statements that any reasonable person watching this video internally is saying, yes, 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 yes. And that puts you into a trance. So I continue.
And in terms of the propaganda that you mentioned, do you think things are changing now? You know, there's been talk of this shift away in American politics from a kind of unquestioning support for Israel. This has been a very difficult year, another very harrowing, difficult year in the region, not just in Gaza, but many other countries, Syria, Lebanon, escalation between Iran and Israel. What is your reading of all of this and you know, Washington's kind of approach right now?
Well,
Okay, before he answers this question, I just want to kind of interject my frame. And my frame is that that dialectics are, which basically means breaking ideas, breaking constituents into two opposing factions, is the status quo. And it is the way that the empire maintains control. And so the Israel versus the West, and the Muslims versus the West, and the Muslims versus the Jews, and the Jews versus the not Protestant Christians, then these things are all dichotomies, right? And so it's about breaking people into as many constituent groups as possible. And so this is my jaded, one-sided, biased frame that I'm looking at this conversation through. So let's listen.
the U.S., I'm speaking as an American who's from Washington. America should never pledge its support to any other country unconditionally.
Should never any unconditional. Universal quantifier, universal quantifier, universal quantifier.
And that would go for the countries of my ancestors.
Okay, now, importantly, he's bringing in the countries of his ancestors. So listen closely.
Great Britain and Sweden.
Great Britain. He gets by Great Britain really fast. Great Britain, like, I don't think he could say Great Britain faster. And then Sweden.
Finland. And it would go for Israel.
So he says Sweden and Finland much slower than he said Great Britain. It's like he just jumps by it.
Qatar, Saudi, UAE, and there is no country in the world to which the United States owes its unconditional support.
Let's back it.
Well, the U.S., I'm speaking as an American who's from Washington. America should never pledge its support to any other country unconditionally, and that would go for the countries of my ancestors, Great Britain and Sweden, Finland, and it would go for Israel, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, and there is no country in the world to which the United States owes its unconditional support. That's crazy. The people who run the United States.
So I want to stop here and say he's right. It's crazy. And the question that deletions, I look for deletions, distortions, and generalizations. That's the meta model. And the thing that's missing is, if it's crazy, then why do we continue to believe that that frame is the frame? So let's do one more time.
Great Britain and Sweden, Finland, and it would go for Israel, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, and there is no country in the world to which the United States owes its unconditional support. That's crazy. The people who run the United States pledge their unconditional support only to American citizens.
Okay, so he starts off by calling it crazy, and then he makes a statement that's not true. Okay, let's one more time.
Finland, and it would go for Israel, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, and there is no country in the world to which the United States owes its unconditional support.
That's right. So let's separate the United States from the power that controls the United States, because the assumption, and he gets into this, that he sells here is that the United States is operating on behalf and at behest of the people of the United States of America. And I think clearly this is not the case. So let's listen.
That's crazy. The people who run the United States pledge their unconditional support only to American citizens and their voters.
That's not true. The people who run the United States are pledging their fealty to the Anglo-American establishment, to the City of London, and to Wall Street, and their agents and assigns. And the United States government has not been sovereign since December 23rd, 1913.
That's our system.
But yeah, so as you say, it's about accountability to the voters. But has something shifted in the last couple of years amongst their voters? Is there is the kind of consciousness being raised in a way? Are there conversations happening with regards to the Palestinians and maybe even other issues in the region that were not happening 5 or 10 years ago?
Look, whenever the U.S. government acts on behalf of anyone other.
Okay, so this is going to be a cause-effect complex equivalence. It may be true, okay, but I just want people to be aware of the words being used here. Whenever, okay, so this is going to be set up for a cause-effect. Whenever, when somebody starts off a sentence and says, whenever, they're probably going to hit you with a cause-effect complex equivalency.
Peter.
Yes.
Can you turn up the sound on the video?
I can't. It's turned up all the way. And I apologize for that. Maybe I can go find the video on Twitter and play it off of Twitter. So let me try that. Hang on a second. I didn't realize that people couldn't hear. And I need to go find. Okay, I got to go figure out how I did this. I downloaded the video from Twitter. And I have the audio turned up all the way on. Yeah, it sounds louder on here. Hang on. All right. So where are we? We're at consciousness. I'm removing it. I am going to have to add a screen. Oh, it's on YouTube, I see.
Well, Tucker, it's lovely to.
All right, I think it's louder here. Share this instead. Let's see if we can make it louder for you folks. And now I'll have, we were at consciousness, right?
Only to American citizens and their voters. That's our system.
But yeah, so as you say, it's about accountability to the voters. But has something shifted in the last couple of years amongst their voters? Is there is the kind of consciousness being raised in a way? Are there?
All right, so we've jumped back a little bit. I think that maybe the audio is better now. Is it better, everybody? So they're talking about voters and consciousness. And my argument, based on Carol Quigley's speech of 1973, I'm sorry, I got a cough drop in my mouth, is that, hang on, professional show business here, is that the voters aren't in charge of the country. And the voters haven't been in charge of the country. Well, Carol Quigley didn't think that the voters were in charge of the country in 1973. So, you know, they're talking about voters as if voting is real and as if the people who represent us in Washington, D.C. are there because we put them there, and they're not. They're there because the oligarchs arranged for them to be there. So that's a problem that I have with this.
Conversations.
Wait, there's an echo in the video? I have no echo. There can't possibly be an echo. Um,
Yeah, 4 people saying.
4 people are saying there's an echo. Hang on a second. Feedback reverb. I'll check my sound settings. Audio. How about if I turn echo cancellation off? Let's see if there's still an echo.
Happening with regards to the Palestinians and maybe even other issues in the region that were not happening 5 or 10 years ago?
Look, whenever the U.S. government acts on behalf of anyone other than American citizens, it is committing a moral crime. It is undermining the American system, which again is designed for one purpose, and that's to represent American citizens.
All right, so I totally agree with him here. Okay, I'm in complete agreement. But the problem is that the people who are in charge were not put there by the voters, even though by all apparent, it's apparent that they are, but they're not.
It's self-government. It's a democratic republic. That's our system. If you want to change the system and make it into some sort of autocracy that acts on behalf of another country, okay, change the system. But under our current system, it is immoral and illegal to act on behalf of another country over and above your country, period.
Okay. This is where Bill Gates said something once that Bill Gates said that he doesn't really care about industry standards. He only cared about de facto standards. And in that situation, Bill Gates is right. So the problem that I have with what Tucker Carlson is saying at this point is that the system clearly is not representative of the people in the United States of America. And yet he's continuing to project that idea that's how we got here. And if he read Guido Preparata, if he read John O'Dowd and Jim McGregor's work, if he read the Predators versus the People, he would understand that these, or Carol Quigley, Bill Clinton's mentor, or Anthony Sutton, if he read any of these people's books, or if he understand this, if he stopped listening to his buddies at the Pilgrim Society, then he would understand that this hasn't been the case for a long time.
So it's a foundational question. It's the foundational question.
Yeah, he's right. It is the foundational question. But when things, he described the situation as crazy, okay, and he seems genuinely conflicted here. I think that he's genuinely conflicted, but I don't think that he's able to reconcile the facts that he has with the story that he sees. And the reality is that the facts are available for anybody who wants to go find them. Okay. But you need to come to the conclusion that if things don't make sense, that you need to go check your assumptions. And he's obviously having a problem reconciling his assumptions with what he's observing.
And that only happens when people don't know it's happening. And
okay, so that only happens when people don't know it's happening. That's not true. Okay, he's using a universal quantifier. There are many circumstances under which that happens. Okay, so one of the things I noticed, and there's this TikTok girl I'll pull up a video, because what Tucker is doing right now is that he's doing the same thing that this TikTok girl did. And that is, the problem with using universal quantifiers in your own language is that you not only can hypnotize other people, you can hypnotize yourself. Okay. And if you make a habit of using universal quantifiers as a regular way of your framing your world, you'll find yourself painted into a lot of corners. So one of the things that I advise people to do, and it's a hard thing to do, okay, I still am a victim of it all the time. I do it to myself, okay? Any, all, always, never. These words have a tendency to, you're reframing your own reality when you use those words, And Tucker is reframing his own reality when he's using those words. So just let's listen to him one more time.
If you want to change the system and make it into some sort of autocracy that acts on behalf of another country, okay, change the system. But under a current system, it is immoral and illegal to act on behalf of another country over and above your country, period. So it's a foundational question. It's the foundational question. And that only happens when people don't know it's happening and aren't allowed to talk about it happening. And now people are talking about it. And of course, the beneficiaries of our current perversion don't want to allow that conversation. But we have free speech in the United States.
Okay. And it's funny because it took me a second to figure this out, but he's talking about free speech and they censored him because I think that he used an expletive. I think he said, some bad word. And I'm going to self-censor myself so that YouTube doesn't censor this channel. But let's just hear that one more time. So here's what he's doing. He's setting up a cause-effect complex equivalency where you're agreeing with the first part of what he said. You're swallowing it whole like a fish so that you'll accept whatever his conclusion is. And like I said earlier, I think that there are many different scenarios that I could suggest for why the world is the way that it is. But because he's used a bunch of universal quantifiers in his cause-effect statement, then when he gets to the complex equivalence, then everybody again swallows it like a whale swallowing a fish. So here we go.
That's our system. If you want to change the system and make it into some sort of autocracy that acts on behalf of another country, okay, change the system. But under a current system, it is immoral and illegal to act on behalf of another country over and above your country, period.
Okay, so he's saying that it's okay to overthrow your country or set it up as an autocracy so that it's working on behalf of another government. This is the dichotomy, right? The dichotomy is that the United States is being controlled by Israel. Okay. The unsaid thing is that Israel is controlled by the City of London and Wall Street. And that, and it's funny because one of the guys, a guy who I'm friends with, who has what I would refer to as probably the most anti-Semitic channel on streaming media, wanted me to come talk about the Candace Owens or the Charlie Kirk arg on his show. And I said, yeah, but I'm not going to blame Israel. And he said, who would you blame? And I said, the Israelis the Israelis are toadies to the City of London. And he said, well, who are the toadies? Cause he thought that I couldn't name them. And I sent him this. I sent him the list of all of. I said it's the heirs of all of the people on this list, which is the Roundtable founders, agents, assets, and handlers that are all listed in the book Two World Wars and Hitler. So if you want to know who I think is in control of the world, it's the people. It's probably the blood relations of all of the people on this list. Again. This is just something that I pulled out of the Two World Wars and Hitler book. So let me remove that and add this back. And we'll continue with Tucker.
So it's a foundational question. It's the foundational question. And that only happens when people don't know it's happening and aren't allowed to talk about it happening. And now people are talking about it. And of course, the beneficiaries of our current perversion,
of course,
don't want to allow that conversation. We have free speech in the United States.
But we have free speech in the United States, and they censored him. I'm sorry. The irony there is just kind of like, it's kind of funny.
So what you're seeing is people exercising their free speech, and you're seeing a debate.
Okay. What you're seeing, this is also hypnotic language, because what he's done a cause effect complex equivalency, and now he's adding a picture to it by using the words "what you're seeing." Okay, this is all neurolinguistic programming. It's pitch perfect. It's really good. Like I said, you can only do that. You can only get this good by practicing. You can really only get this good by doing it every day. And he's been doing it for so long that it's just completely second nature to him. But there's nobody better at this than he is.
That is long overdue. And if there's another side to it, if you think that the point of the U.S. government is to serve a foreign country, tell me how.
Okay, that's called a suggestion. If you think that the point of the U.S. government is to serve a foreign country, then tell me how. That's called command language. Milton Erickson is the hypnotist who's best known for developing that. And so this is the idea that he wants people who are listening to this interview to have, that the United States is being controlled by Israel, instead of the United States is being controlled by the City of London and Wall Street. And Israel, like the CIA, okay, is a controlled asset of the City of London and Wall Street. And like I said, Tucker Carlson, 2009, there's a roster where it shows that Tucker Carlson was a member of the Pilgrim Society. And the Pilgrim Society is, it's like the Rhodes Roundtable, but basically it's a way that you control propaganda. It's the way that the English oligarchy controls the conversation about the American relationship with Great Britain in the United States of America. That's ostensibly what the organization is set up to do. And so Tucker may just be an unwilling asset. He may have been so propagandized through his Pilgrim Society relations that he actually believes this. He thinks that this is true. He doesn't understand the Jim McGregor, John O'Dowd, Guido Preparata frame of how World War I and World War II started. He doesn't understand that the British are not our closest friends. They are, in a lot of ways, our worst enemies.
Can I ask you, if the conversation was long overdue, why is it only happening now?
People can only be.
You see the universal quantifier.
Led into an arrangement that acts against their own interests if they don't know it's happening or they're not permitted to notice it.
Okay, this is sort of true. It's not completely true. You could be hypnotized into it. You can be a true believer and really think that you're doing the right thing and you're not doing the right thing. I could probably break down all of these things into its own Substack post, yeah, each one of these individual things. But I just want you guys to see it, just see it, how it's happening. And I want you to understand how I break these things down. Okay. Because I love Tucker. I want Tucker to I would love to have Tucker Carlson have Guido Preparata on his show. Okay. Because Guido Preparata, I believe, is one of the greatest living he's one of the greatest living historians. Okay. And he's a guy who published Conjuring Hitler 20 years ago and was rewarded for it by being fired by the University of Washington. Okay. And he wound up teaching math at El Camino High School in Woodland Hills, where I grew up. This is one of the greatest researchers and intellects of our time. And it would be great if Tucker Carlson had him on his show, because he could straighten Tucker out in an hour or two. And Tucker may not ever be able to recover from having a conversation with Guido. But I would love it if that happened.
You know it's happening and they're allowed to talk about it, it ends. It's literally that simple. So it's all about, are you allowed to say the obvious? And Americans, for a bunch of different reasons, using a bunch of different mechanisms, have not been allowed to do that. Now they are. I would give a lot of the credit to Elon Musk for buying and opening up Twitter, which he renamed X, and all of a sudden there's a vigorous conversation about obvious things.
Okay, so I think this is a product placement infomercial, because clearly, I don't know if I'm fairly positive that X is censoring people all over the place all the time. And the people they're not censoring are the people who have the approved messages. So again, I think Elon Musk is no savior. I don't buy any of this argument.
Once that happens, there's no stopping it. And where we're going to arrive at some point, I think soon, is at the proud, to say the obvious. And Americans, for a bunch of different reasons, using a bunch of different mechanisms, have not been allowed to do that. Now they are. I would give a lot of the credit to Elon Musk for buying and opening up Twitter, which he renamed X, and all of a sudden there's a vigorous conversation about obvious things.
Okay, so here's one example. Again, and Elon's got all of the excuses in the world, but you cannot share Substack posts on Twitter. I mean, you can, but there's something in social media called a card, which is the picture that goes along with the story. And if I share a YouTube video on Twitter, it'll pull the card. If I share a Substack post on Twitter, it will not pull the card. And that's on purpose. Elon did that on purpose because he threatened Substack. He said if Substack added notes, which is basically kind of a, it's sort of like Twitter, but not really. But he said that if Substack turned on notes, he was no longer going to share the social media cards for Substack on Twitter. Well, that's not free speech. He'll claim, Substack is competing with us, but is it free speech or is it like we're gonna only censor our competitors? Okay, because Substack is as close to a free speech platform as there is right now, and Twitter isn't close to the kind of conversations that you can have. So I'll continue.
Once that happens, there's no stopping it, and where we're going to arrive at some point, I think soon, is at the core promise of our existing system, which is the U.S. government is here to serve American citizens first and foremost. Sorry. There's no stopping that. And there's no counter argument. So it's, if you say that, we'll shut you down, we'll silence you, we'll slander you, we'll shoot you. Making physical threats against people who are telling obvious truths. They are doing that a lot, including to me.
Do you feel, you make quite a few trips here, but has something changed in the way you feel in the last couple of years? Do you feel
I feel
safe?
that I'm 56, my children are grown. I have an obligation, from my perspective, to tell the truth. In decency and kindness, by the way. Telling the truth does not mean attacking people or pointing out their obvious sins. No, telling the truth means telling the truth in love. What do you think is true? By the way, I've been wrong many times. I supported the Iraq War, okay? I've been wrong. And I know that I've been wrong, and I know that I will be wrong again. So I'm not claiming I have a monopoly on the truth. What I'm saying is, as an American citizen, I have a right to say what I think, and I'm going to. Period.
How could this fight to reshape the American right possibly define how the U.S. engages with the Middle East? Could it potentially change everything?
The President of the United States recently sided in public with an Arab country over Israel. Israel bombed Doha. Qatar is one of our most important allies in the region. Our largest airbase is in this country, Qatar.
It's interesting too, because I don't normally pay any attention to Middle Eastern countries, but there are particular influencers who every once in a while, I think Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec and Mike Waller made an and Dave Reboy made a film. I have to go dig it up. Which was like an anti-Qatar video about 5 or 6 years ago. And I wasn't paying any attention to Qatar, and they made this video, and it's like, who paid for that? I looked at that and I thought, who paid for that? And why does anybody care? But again, if you understand that there is a super state and that all of these countries, if the United States is a puppet, do you think that Qatar's not a puppet? Do you think that Israel's not a puppet? Do you think Saudi Arabia is not a puppet? Okay, if the United States is a puppet, all of these countries are puppets China's a puppet, Russia's a puppet. They're all puppets, okay? They're not completely 100% controlled puppets. That's why they want to get the control grid in, okay? But the dialectic right now is, let's get people to love Israel. If you just epistemologically look at the amount of money that's being put into messaging right now, you've got Tucker, you've got Ian Carroll, you've got Candace Owen, you got Johnny Vedmore, you got Milo Yiannopoulos, and they're all on you got Stu Peters, okay, and they're all on the Israel did it, okay, tip, okay, and then on the other side, you've got the Israel can do nothing wrong tip, and this is a dichotomy that's being engineered, and both sides, and again, the sides are the tell. Both sides are ignoring the fact that it's a puppet show. Okay, now, are they ignoring the fact that it's a puppet show because they don't know? Probably. Okay, probably. They probably don't know it's a puppet show. Okay, assets don't need to know that they're assets to be assets. The definition of an asset is somebody who serves empire without knowing they're serving empire. Okay, the definition of a handler is somebody who serves empire and they know they're serving empire. Okay, so I want to give Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Ian Carroll and Stu Peters and all these people the benefit of the doubt that they're being spoon-fed nonsense in order to maintain dialectics. Okay, and the point of the dialectics is to get us to all fight with each other and not talk to one another.
Hosts Hamas at the request of the United States government and the Israeli government for more than 10 years. And Israel bombed a meeting here in Qatar in order to short-circuit Donald Trump's peace process. This was an attack not just on Qatar, but on America.
And this is probably true. Again, and there are factions within the puppet masters. But again, it's Israel Qatar. It's not City of London, Wall Street, City of London, Wall Street. Okay. Who's coming in and buying Gaza right now? Isn't it BlackRock? Is it Jared Kushner? Okay. Are they representing Israel? Are they representing Qatar? Or are they representing Wall Street and the City of London? I argue that they're representing Wall Street and the City of London.
Trump saw it that way. He said he saw it that way. And he forced the Israelis to apologize to the government of Qatar. Nothing like that has ever happened. There's never been a situation where the U.S. president publicly took the side of an Arab country over Israel.
I haven't. There isn't one example of an apology making somebody who has been unalived alive again. Okay. The problem is that people get killed.
Just happened. That is a huge change. That is a seminal change. What are its long-term effects? I can only guess, but we've never seen that before.
And what about countries in the region? Just one final question. What about countries in the region? How might this shift in American politics possibly change the way that they engage? Could there be a rare opportunity for them to engage in a way that they haven't in this changing landscape?
I can't speak for any GCC government. I am an American, and so I will explain what I believe is the American perspective, which is we align with countries that share our values, but mostly we align with countries that have some strategic benefit to us. And this is...
So let's talk about what the strategic benefits are. We mostly align with countries that have some strategic benefit with us. No. We align with countries who we have a strategic benefit with. That is, Great Britain cannot control the Middle East. Great Britain has no oil, the North Sea. But Europe and Great Britain don't have any oil. And without the might of the United States of America, they may lose control of that part of the world. Okay, there's several different geopolitical reasons why. Energy is only one of them.
Is a resource-dense part of the world. Energy is essential for civilization. And the country that we're most closely allied with has no resources. It has 9 million people. It is a completely insignificant country in the Levant. I'm speaking of Israel. It is an insignificant country from an American point of view. The only reason Israel is significant is because we provide a security guarantee. So we have to defend Israel because I'm not sure why. We have no moral obligation to defend Israel whatsoever.
All right. So this is, again, he says, I don't know why. I want to believe him, but if you do a cursory examination on the history of Zionism, you'll find out that it was born in Great Britain and that Great Britain was sending Henry Wentworth Monk over to solicit Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War to create Palestine as a Jewish homeland. So, you know, there are answers to these questions, Tucker. And you've got a staff. Okay. Tucker and I are 1 degree separated. There are people who work for Tucker who got there because I referred them to somebody. Okay. So there are people around Tucker Carlson who know the answer to this question. So the fact that he's saying that he doesn't understand the answer to the question, and that's what he just said. So let's hear it again.
And this is a resource-dense part of the world. Energy is essential for civilization. And the country that we're most closely allied with has no resources. It has 9 million people. It is a completely insignificant country in the Levant. I'm speaking of Israel. It is an insignificant country from an American point of view. The only reason Israel is significant is because we provide a security guarantee. We have to defend Israel because I'm not sure why. We have no moral obligation to defend Israel whatsoever. And there's no American interest inherent.
All right. So that's a universal quantifier. There's no reason to defend Israel whatsoever. Okay. Sure, there are reasons. Okay. They may not be good reasons. Okay. But there are reasons. Okay. The State Department can give you reasons. They can give you reasons that that don't include they're our closest ally in the region. Okay. There are reasons that they can give you. But I find it disingenuous when he makes a comment like that.
In Israel, they're the holy sites, which are great. And I think the world should be allowed access to them, to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, to the Church of the Nativity, and to Al-Aqsa Mosque and to the wall. But as a nation, as a secular nation, there is no overridingly value strategic interest in Israel for the United States. Like, what are we getting out of this? Nothing. It's only.
All right. So I've gone through this before, but the patch for United States Army military CENTCOM is Halford Mackinder's 5 C's. Okay. This is again, I would point Tucker to the Geographic Pivot of History, a speech given by Halford Mackinder in 1904 at president of the London School of Economics, given at the Royal Geographic Society, explaining why the Middle East is the pivot area. Okay. Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote about it. I'm trying to think of Henry Kissinger wrote about it. Like, there's a lot of people who have written about it. So why Tucker doesn't know this or he feigns ignorance, I'm dumbfounded when I hear these words come out of his mouth.
Cost. Whereas, for example, the 6 GCC nations, there's a very obvious benefit to the United States. So of course we should be closely allied with all 6 of these countries. And I know that they're constantly fighting with each other. But again, I'm an American looking at it from an American perspective. Those are very important relationships. Much more important than our relationship with Israel. Much more important. If you were to assess what's in America's interest purely that way, like we're gonna have relationships with other countries based on what's good for us. You would rate your relationship with Qatar, for example, as infinitely more important than your relationship with Israel. Infinitely more important. Now, there are a lot of people dedicated to lying about that.
What's that?
That's not true. They sure. Those are very important relationships. Much more important than our relationship with Israel. Much more important. If you were to assess what's in America's interest purely that way, like we're gonna have relationships with other countries based on what's good for us. You would rate your relationship with Qatar, for example, as infinitely more important than your relationship with Israel. Infinitely more important. Now, there are a lot of people.
One thing that I just noticed too about Tucker, and I don't know how many people have been watching Gavin Newsom and what he does with his hands, but Tucker is great with his hands. Like, he's not using them in a way that it's so obnoxious that you notice it. And I'm watching Tucker's car again. We're watching this video and over again. You start to look at certain things, like the way that he uses his hands. His left hand's completely relaxed. You see how, like, it's completely relaxed, and his right hand is completely animated. And I'm just watching the way he uses his hands and thinking, God, Gavin Newsom would love to be able to have the hand control that Tucker Carlson has.
Dedicated to lying about that. That's not true. They share our values. No. Qatar is a much more important relationship than a relationship with Israel. And I think that's starting to dawn on people. Why are we spending billions of dollars destroying our credibility, paying for the murder of children?
So this is why I think that the city of London and Wall Street has decided that they're gonna burn Israel, okay, and that they're gonna move their Mideast operations over to Qatar. We already have, I think, the biggest U.S. air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. I know that we have significant military presence in Qatar. We have bases and all kinds of stuff. And it seems like, again, like I said, if they want to reduce North America and Europe down to feudal states, then they need to create these civil war scenarios in order to create as much disruption as possible. And they need safe havens. They need places like Switzerland, but Switzerland is in Europe. So I think Qatar is in the Mideast, but it's not Israel. And I think Singapore is a place that nobody's looking at right now.
Like, how is that good for us? I guess it's good for Bibi, okay. But it's not good for us. And everyone knows it's not good for us. And only when they stick a gun in your face and tell you to shut up are you going to pretend that it's good for you.
Only. No, only when they pay you. Okay. No, that's violence. That's coercion. That's the C in mice. It could be money. It could be ideology. It could be compromise. It could be ego. It could be family. It could be those other things. Okay. It's not just the gun in your face.
But if you're allowed to think for yourself, you realize that is not good. Period.
Tucker Carlson, thank you for joining us on
Thank
Viewpoint.
All right. So let's go to some questions here. I'm going to get rid of this. All right. So somebody said at the beginning of the show, GoFundMe for Tucker to move to Qatar. Again, clearly it seems like he has a Qatar bias in this video. And I'm not going to pretend to be a mind reader and explain to you why he did this. We can all guess. Okay, but we have to approach this thing with love. And if you want to do a GoFundMe, you can do a GoFundMe for the Duke Report because our monthly rent has gone up $700 since the fire, and we could really use your support. So if you want to become a paid subscriber to the Duke Report, or if you want to, Christmas is coming up. If you want to gift a paid subscription to the Duke Report to your grandchildren for their homeschooling, because I'm providing a huge amount of historic content that would be great for the homeschooling community, then you could do that. Or you can go to thedukereport.com. You can click on the shop button and you can buy yourself an edgy t-shirt like my Quigley and Sutton shirt that I've got on right now. And then you'll be the smartest kid in the room. No, don't do a GoFundMe for Tucker. Do a GoFundMe for me. Here we go. Southern Bird Charm says, you confirm my suspicions about reality TV with your recent video. Yeah, I got more things that I'm working on. So Arthur, I don't know if Arthur is here. Arthur Stone, who's a big supporter of the channel, he 10 years ago wrote a paper about how he thought that Big Brother was a TV show that was designed to normalize people to live in a surveillance state. And I'm going to add that to America's Got Talent, which turned into Great Britain's Got Talent and all these other Got Talent shows, which I believe was designed to tune the sentiment analysis engines for things that hadn't been invented yet, like Twitter, in order to be able to use media in order to measure the sentiment analysis of people. So I'm going to combine Survivor, The Apprentice, Big Brother, and America's Got Talent, and I'm going to put that all together as a game theory post. But I'm still working on that right now, and I wanted to see what Arthur came up with because that was super interesting to me. I think that he was absolutely right 10 years ago. Jonathan says, what is a sword dance? Mohammed bin Salman appears only leader to exact justice for 9/11 perps with his coup. I don't know. Isn't Trump a line block check cutter as HQ? I don't know. I think it's, again, I don't know really what's going on right now. Okay. I know that if I watch Promethean action, that the world is all unicorns and rainbows and Trump is winning and the city of London is going away and la-da-da-da-da and it's all so wonderful. And then I look at what's happening and it doesn't seem to match what's coming out of their mouth. And I look at Promethean action and I think they've gone Q-tard. Okay, so the answer to your question is I don't know. But watch this space. I wish I did know. Here we go. Alexander Tolyanitsin. I love that name. Is Tucker's technique always intentional? Is he aware he does it so much? I think it's second nature to him. Like I think like Tony Robbins. Like I think that if you do it every day, you get really, really good at it. And I think that I think he's been coached. And obviously, as a CIA kid, he probably had a lot of support early on in understanding and learning how to deploy this stuff and roll it out. But there's nobody better at it than he is. I mean, he's a natural, as the people in the pickup artist community would say, except that I think that he's trained. Substack Art says, isn't NATO Article 5 a mutual unconditional support to other NATO countries when they are attacked? Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Entente Cordiale or the Triple Entente. Yeah, it's one of those sucker moves that's designed to get everybody into a war. There's a lot of pre-positioning that's required in order to start World War III. I do think that they are trying to start World War III. I do. I posted a page from Two World Wars and Hitler where they were quoting Guido Preparata the other day about, I mean, Adolf Hitler was completely a construct of American and British intelligence. His handler, Putzi Hofstangl, went to school at Harvard and spent 14 years with Hitler, taught him the Roman salute and Sieg Heil, and funded the Nazi Party and the Nazi newspaper. And all of that stuff was created by Great Britain and the United States. So, you got to start there to understand how these things are really working. Hans Stein says, a hypnotist by eliciting agreement, and you listening to your own stuff, you are a master of confusion. Well, I'm confused. I do stutter and, hesitate and say and ah a lot. No, I'm not that good. I wish I were. I mean, if I spent a lot of time working on hypnosis, I would. But no, it's not by eliciting agreement. It's the specific technique of eliciting agreement. Okay, there's a particular structure to the way that the words are put together. They take advantage of something called the meta model, where people delete and distort and generalize, and then what the natural tendency for people to do who are listening is to fill in those ideas with their own pre-positioned ideas. And so there's a specific technique that he's using. And like I said, I write, Hans, I write a lot about it on my Substack. Just look for NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, and you'll find that I lay out what a cause-effect statement is, what a complex equivalency is, what a universal quantifier is, what a nominalization or a thought-terminating cliche or a double bind. These are all linguistic structures, okay? Eliciting agreement, yes, and there's a paper that you can find if you go to DukeReportBooks.com that's called Mere Agreement. Just look for MERE-agreement, and you'll find that. And mere agreement is also referred to in the pickup artist community as something called a yes ladder. I would recommend the book The Game by Neil Strauss, which is a great kind of survey. It's a salacious and kind of lurid book, but it's a great survey on hypnotic technique. And so I would suggest that you go and look at that stuff. Don't take my word for it. That's okay. If you want to doubt me, I'm totally okay with that. Go do your own work. Go check your own stuff. Check out what I'm saying. All right, and then get back to me. Here we go. Vic Hughes says he's staying to the script. He is staying to the script that the British controlled publishing textbook industry push. Again, I think that the pieces on the board are moving. I'm not sure that New York and the City of London are the center, or are going to be the center after the next reshuffling. I think it might be Qatar and Singapore. Okay. Which doesn't bode well for Europeans and Americans. Okay. So the United States is being flooded by people from south of the border, and Europe is being flooded by people from the Middle East. Okay. The question isn't really about Muslims or people who speak Spanish. It's about why are the governments facilitating, why are the super governments facilitating that, and why are the governments that are supposed to protect the people so hamstrung in doing that? And again, as long as you're going to look at voters as the solution, as long as Tucker Carlson is saying, I don't understand why the government isn't doing what the voters want them to do. Well, they're not doing it because they're not working for the voters. Tucker, they're not working for the voters. Okay. They're working for the people that you go to dinner with at the Pilgrim Society. Okay. So when you connect those dots, then all of a sudden the world makes a lot of sense and you understand what's going on. So I don't know that I understand the question, Vic, but Vic's a great supporter of the channel, and thanks for all you do, Vic. Let's see. Next is what's the link between the Anglo-American Empire and sex and organ? It's money. Okay, it's money and it's compromise. So, sex trafficking is not really about sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is really about controlling bureaucrats and politicians and executives who are in power positions by entrapping them, by taking advantage of their human frailties, and leveraging that in order to control them. Okay, so part of the problem that I have with people who are talking about calling Jeffrey Epstein a pedophile. Okay, he liked young adult women. Okay. And they might not have been of age, but the reason that he was using them was so that he could get a bill passed in Congress, or he could get a certain statute or regulation changed with different governmental organizations, so that he could get a board seat on a particular corporation that he was trying to control. Those are the things that people don't talk about when they make it about sex, because everybody wants to see the naked pictures, or they want the bad guys, they want to see the bad guy's ass. Okay. And that's, the bad guy was in charge of doing something. Okay. And it wasn't that he was diddling a little girl or a little boy. It was that he was changing a regulation here. Okay. That he moved a board seat over here, that he sold a block of stock from this person to that person. Okay. Those are the net results of the trafficking. Okay. And so I think it's kind of a distraction. Organ sales, yes. That's a lurid and despicable thing, but that's one of the benefits of having a lot of dead bodies laying around. That's one of the benefits of creating a lot of dead bodies. You have a lot of kidneys and livers that you can harvest, right? Which, by the way, reminds me of this weird TV show on Apple that I'm watching, and I'll talk about that in a minute, maybe. Let me see. Need to figure out how to get rid of that. Xana Zimba, the City of London and Wall Street are in turn controlled by who? Lizard people. This is what they want. Okay, this is why, again, these people like David Icke, they get you all the way to the end. They get you all the way they get you right to the door. They get you to the last door, and then they tell you it's lizard people. Okay, and then they tell you that it's transcendent life forms, right? That it's the Iliel from That Hideous Strength, or from C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. Anyway, it's something transcendent, right? It's something transcendent, or something that you can't see. And I don't believe in any of that. I believe that it's very real bloodlines, that the people who are in control are the controlling interests of the largest corporations and banks in the world, and they have real names, and they eat and breathe and poop like all of us. And then they have children, and they have, and the ones that don't have children have heirs, heirs, and that's the way that the world is controlled. Okay, so no, I don't believe in lizard people, and I do believe in secret societies, though. So let's do that. Xanadu Zimba says Twitter has become an algorithm ghetto. Yes, it has, and Tucker claiming that it's not is disingenuous in the most charitable approximation. Fazalam, so you're saying, it's never a good way to start a sentence, that U.S. interests should be viewed through the lens of the British Empire. Yes, I think that the United States is a puppet of Anglo oligarchs, and that they are the majority stockholders of the Federal Reserve Bank and the Bank of International Settlements, and that they are in control of things. Yes, we did have a revolution 250 years ago, and on December 23rd, 1913, those oligarchs effectively took control of the United States of America by creating this debt-based capital system where every dollar that's spent by the United States government is borrowed into existence, creating a giant Ponzi scheme, which it looks like it's about to collapse at this point, and there's going to be a jubilee. People should go look at my money videos and podcasts about what a jubilee is, and that there's going to be a jubilee, and that will be the final coup de grace on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, if we let them get away with it. And the reason that I do this show is because I think that information is power, and if you understand this, and if more of you understood this, then we would be able to put our heads together and figure out some way to do something about it. But unless we actually are all operating with the same understanding, then that's not going to be possible. So I'm not suggesting any action at this point, except to make yourself smarter and to get the people around, show my stuff to other people so that they can be smarter too. So yes, that's my short answer to your question. Vic Hughes again says, didn't Tucker say he bought a property in Qatar. Look, if I were somebody like Tucker, I would be buying property all over the world, because you don't know where this is going to go down. And I do think that Qatar and Singapore are going to wind up being the safe havens. Because a world war means that the whole world is involved. And North America, I don't think, is going to be absolved on this go-round. So that's it. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because somebody invited me to move to I think UAE. Qatar is in UAE, right? Somebody invited me to move there about 2.5 years ago, and it was so random. Like, this guy sent me on LinkedIn. He sent me a link, and he said, "Peter, I'm moving to UAE. You should come too." And I actually have a couple of other friends who I knew back in the entertainment business who moved to UAE, and now I'm thinking, well, maybe they knew something and I didn't. All right, Jessica sent me some links, and let me see if I can. She found me the gold desk. Perfect. Awesome. Let me see if I can share this. Share this tab instead. I'll bring this up. And here is this is from, okay, let's see if we could do it in YouTube.
Good morning. I'm still reporting on strange goings on in the financial.
Hang on, I got to bring it up on the screen. Share this tab instead. And it's from, let's look at the date, 2 weeks ago. Okay, this is 2 weeks ago.
Good morning. I'm still reporting on strange goings on in the financial world. Last Thursday, with no press release, JP Morgan Chase moved its entire gold trading desk that handles billions of dollars every day from New York to Singapore. This is not an expansion. This is an escape. 50 plus traders and their families were told to be in Singapore by the end of last week. The linked email reads, relocate all COMEX eligible gold operators to Asia Pacific by end of week. Gold is now trading at $4,256 an ounce, up $54 just today. JP Morgan has already delivered $4 billion in physical bullion against New York futures contracts this month alone, the biggest physical delivery since 2008. Singapore has no gold import tariffs, is friendly with BRICS nations and JP Morgan's private bank. There is exploding within ultra-high net worth clients moving money out of the United States. Jamie Dimon visited the Shanghai Gold Exchange in March and has been building deep ties with China's gold market ever since. Meanwhile, BRICS countries just sold another $93 billion in United States treasuries last week. When the biggest gold desk on the planet quietly leaves New York, it is because the smart money knows something the public has not yet been told. Trump says that Fort Knox is about to be audited. If the gold is missing or revalued or filled with some metal that's not gold, the dollar's days as the world reserve currency are numbered. The bankers always know first. Now you do too. Please hit subscribe, like.
All right. So I don't necessarily agree with the conclusion here at the end, because the idea is that gold. First of all, the United States isn't on a gold standard, so the United States doesn't actually need to own any gold. The United States, the dollar is backed up by 10 nuclear-powered carrier battle groups and a global and 700 military bases around the world. That's what backs up the United States dollar. And so I'm not convinced of that. However, given the fact that I believe that the entire United States American economy is fake based on the fact that it's the Federal Reserve and its usurious interest It's a Ponzi scheme because their dollars are loaned into existence, creating interest that can never be paid back. This was the design of the system in 1913. It was designed to do this. And so I think that what will happen is that there is going to be a giant epistemological war. And the epistemological war is going to be about what you believe money to be. Because money is essentially magic. It is only the shared human belief in a system that allows money to work. If everybody didn't believe that gold had value, then gold would be worthless. But the Rothschilds were the ones who convinced the world that they should be on the gold standard. And it is, at least the modern nation states. And Nixon took us off the gold standard. I don't think that he did that of his own accord. I think that he was probably told to do that by David Rockefeller. The money system is about to be reset. I think that that's clear. And there are certain people who are going to believe that it has something to do with gold, and they may make a lot of money in gold. But if you put all of your money in gold and then Donald Trump creates a new monetary system that doesn't have anything to do with gold, I'm not sure that your gold is going to be worth anything in that system. So, it's the point of showing this is that I think that there is a transition going on right now from the control centers of New York and the city of London, I think, to Qatar and Singapore. That's my guess. Again, I could be wrong, but that's when I see things like this, I think, oh, they're moving New York to Singapore. And when I see Qatar when I see Tucker in Qatar, I think, oh yeah, they're moving the city of London to Qatar, like that. Because you have to understand that the generational families, they started off in Phoenicia, right? And then they wound up in Rome, and then in Venice, and then in Switzerland, and then in Amsterdam, and then in London, and then in New York. They move around. They've been moving around for 2,000 years. Okay. So maybe they think it's time to move again. That's what it seems like. And she found this. All right. Producer Jessica's doing a good job today. Blood Money. It's the blood. Yeah, let's just watch the trailer for this thing called Blood Money.
Foreign propaganda is all around us.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I gotta share this tab instead. Yeah, these guys are all friends of mine. When I made this, and I was going, what are they doing?
Foreign propaganda is all around us.
More than a dozen prominent Washington research groups have received tens of millions of dollars from foreign governments in recent years.
We all see it every day. Many of us repeat it every day, and we don't even realize it.
Washington becomes a playground for foreign interests, and the interest of the United States citizen gets kind of lost in this.
Qatar is excellent at playing the game. You fund think tanks to put out policy papers that support what you want. And then you fund law firms to sue people you don't like. There's pay-to-play journalism. Huge amount of foreign-funded news and commentary that we all take in as real thoughts and real news coming from real American citizens.
The nation of Qatar has historically been a funder of terrorism.
Hey, let's go back to that screenshot. Is that the president of Syria? Trying to see if the president of Syria is in here someplace. Gitmo detainee service. Oh no, this is Gitmo guys.
Been a funder of terrorism.
Qatar has been a patron of the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamist movements. Qatar funds Hamas. They sponsor the Taliban. Spent an untold amount of money in DC funding media operations, hiring lobbyists. They've been tremendously successful.
Foreign funding of American government decision-making. It corrupts our democracy.
So
foreign propaganda is all around.
So, is there a jet going over us? I live by a Navy base, and a fast mover just moved over my head. Anyway, yeah. Again, I think the cutter is a cutout, right? Like Israel is a cutout, like the United States is a puppet. Okay, it's City of London and Wall Street money flowing through Qatar, flowing through. Basically, after the Arab oil embargo in the 1970s, where did all that money that the Arabs started making go? It went into Wall Street. Okay, so it's a giant self-licking ice cream cone. So blaming Qatar for something, blaming Israel for something, blaming the United States for something, all of these things, all of these ploys ignore the City of London and Wall Street. Okay, they're all ignoring the City of London and Wall Street, who are now moving to Singapore and Qatar. So what do we call them, right? This winds up becoming the problem because, Shiva calls them the swarm, right? And Danny Castellero called them the octopus. And Mies calls it Glafia, the global mafia. And Paul Kudinek calls it the Zio-fascist mafia. There's everybody's. I stick with either the power elite, which was coined by C. Wright Mills, or at this point, I kind of prefer the Anglo-American establishment. But if the Anglo-American establishment is moving to Qatar and Singapore, then can you still call them the Anglo-American establishment? This is part of the problem that people like me, researchers like me, who get to a point where you figure out what's actually really going on and who's really in charge, you have a hard time naming it, right? It's bigger than a bread box, and you have a hard time naming it. And I think that if we could come up with like a name, that would be great. All right, she sent me one more link, and it's about.
No,
It's redundant to the other thing I see. All right, so if anybody's got any other questions, now is the time.
you have plenty.
Okay. Oh, I got 8, it looks like. All right, here we go. I love this. I love this. People asking questions. Vicky said, didn't Tucker say that he bought a property? And we already read that. Maybe. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if he did. Are the Dutch and British East India corporations the predecessors to the Anglo-American Empire? Absolutely, 100%. And there's a book on the Duke Report books called on DukeReportBooks.com called The Anglo-Dutch Empire, I think. I can go find a link to it. Yes, they are. But I still think that, again, we still have the same forces in play. It's funny because the British East India Company was founded under Queen Elizabeth, who's the Virgin Queen, and we have the Virgin Corporation, fronted by Richard Branson. All of the Virgin companies are privately held, by the way, so they're all private equity. And then on the other bookend, the British East India Company got subsumed by the Crown Corporation in the City of London, under Queen Victoria. And is that Victoria's Secret? So you have Virgin and you have Victoria's Secret. They're still around. Okay. Are these the Dutch and British East India companies? They just have, they have new underwear. I don't know, but yes, to answer your question, let's see. Are you again Jubilee?
Against.
Am I against Jubilee? No, I think we need a Jubilee, but I'm on the the 3 economists that I would hope would be in charge of re-engineering our economy would be Richard Werner, Ellen Brown, and people are going to think I'm crazy. E. Michael Jones. E. Michael Jones wrote this book called Barren Metal, where he makes the case that you need to have an economy that's moral. And if you don't have a monetary system that is based on some kind of morality, then you get what we have. Okay. And making what we have worse, which is what the control grid is all about, is not an ideal situation. Catherine Austin Fitts, she could be the fourth person. Like if I was going to put together like Donald Trump went over and he seized control of the Federal Reserve, and we turned it into an actual reserve bank instead of a privately held bank that calls itself a reserve bank, and that it was subservient to the United States Treasury, not somebody that loans the Treasury money. Then I would put the people who I would want to have on the board of that bank would be like, I want to say Mark Skidmore, Catherine Austin Fitts, Richard Werner, Ellen Brown, Nancy Spanis would be okay. There's some people out there who understand what's called the American system of economy. And I would have the Treasury Department. I got this from Ellen Brown. Mint $100 trillion coin. You can make it out of copper. You can make it out of plastic. I don't care what you make it out of. And you walk over to the Federal Reserve Bank and you hand it over to the Federal Reserve Chairman and say, "I'd like to close my account." And then, by the way, I would take the 1st Marine Brigade over there too, and I would seize the property, and I would make it part of the United States Treasury. And then I would also hold all of the major banks to their FCC requirements, which I believe, FTC requirements, which they would all fail. And then I would seize all those banks too. So there's ways to fix this because the debt is fake. Okay. The debt is imaginary. It's a magical spell that has been cast on everybody. So if we can break the magical spell with a big plastic coin that says $100 trillion, then we can fix the system. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think that's what's going to happen, because you'd have to have enough smart people for that to happen. But I'm trying to make everybody smarter. Bob Haas was control of the U.S. lost in 1871 when the government went bankrupt and the British bailed them out. Not so much. Again, the Federal Reserve was a game, set, match control of the United States economy. Before then, they had the ability to kind of move a little knob here and move a little knob there. But once they got control of the entire monetary system of the federal government, then we were basically owned. Going bankrupt and I don't think the British bailed them out. I think the Rothschilds bailed them out. Here we go. Steve says, what happens when they devour the slave class? Do they begin to devour themselves until the game is over? It's funny that you asked that, because I'm watching this weird TV show. I watch these shows for the metadata understanding of them. There's a show called Pluribus, and it's a very weird show, and it's about this alien that we do it to ourselves. These aliens send a signal that turns into a DNA code, and DNA scientists create this sequence that they put into rats, and a rat bites a woman, and then the virus spreads around the entire planet, and then there's only 12 people who are not affected by it. And sorry if I'm spoiling this for you, but the people who are infected by this virus, it's like a zombie virus, only instead of being zombies, they all become the like mind. So there's 7 billion people in the world who are all one person. Okay. So it doesn't matter which one of them that you talk to, you're having a conversation with one person, and they all share each other's feelings and memories. And when the lady who's the lead character of the show gets all upset, they can't handle her derision, and many of them die. So it's a crazy conceit. But the reason I watch these shows is because I'm trying to get myself into the mindset of the people who are doing these things. I think that, again, since December 23rd, 1913, slavery became democratized, meaning that we are slaves. Okay. Whether if you're paying taxes, if the IRS comes after you if you don't pay your taxes, and if you are being told to put on a mask and in order to go to a grocery store, you're a slave. Okay, that's not freedom. Okay, and the word liberty has been twisted. Liberty is freedom that is bestowed on you by somebody who has more power than you. Okay, I was researching this before the show today. In the Declaration of Independence, the way that the word liberty is used is that your liberty is given to you by your creator. Okay, not by men. Okay, but I question why they used the word liberty in the Declaration of Independence. Why didn't they just say freedom? Okay. And that's because liberty is something that can be bestowed on you and it can be taken away from you. Freedom is not something that can be taken away from you. Freedom is something you have to go take, right? So I think that we are a slave class. And what happens to them when they devour the slave class? Well, Elon Musk, if you watch Elon Musk on his Twitter feed, he says that the slaves are all going to be robots. And everyone is going to be happy because everyone's going to be served by robots. Well, then the question, what's the deletion? Deletion, distortion, generalization. The deletion is who's everybody? Okay? Because if the intent is to kill 7 billion of us and then replace 1 billion of us with robots so that there's 500 million people living on the planet and there's a billion robots who are slaves, then everyone is just the elites. The slave class is eliminated. All right. They're gone. They're history. Okay. So they're going to devour everyone who's not them. I think that's the net. And I have to tell my daughter that I'm on my podcast. All right. Next question. Gene, when it comes to eugenics and reducing human population, how can the elites guarantee their own well-being when everything is being poisoned, such as air, water, food? I think that, and it's funny because these subjects come up in this weird show, Pluribus. And if you don't already subscribe to Apple, I'm not telling you that I think that you should give Apple more money in order to go watch a show. But if you already do, just from a meta standpoint, go watch this show, because I look at books like Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson or Diamond Age or Snow Crash. And I think that these things serve the same purpose that books like The Invisible Man and War of the Worlds and The Island of Dr. Moreau served when H.G. Wells was the official author of the Rhodes-Milner Roundtable. So when it comes to eugenics, I think that I look at stores like Erewhon. Okay, in the United States of America, there's a store called Erewhon, and Erewhon is named for a story that was written by, I want to say, Edward Bulwer Lytton. Is that right? No, it was somebody else. It was another guy who knew Bulwer Lytton. Anyway, English guy, English lord, I think. And the idea is that Samuel Butler. Thank you. Samuel Butler wrote Erewhon. And there are stores in the United States called Erewhon. Okay. And that's a hat tip to the elite. It's kind of like Victoria's Secret or Virgin. And if you go to Erewhon, you can buy non-GMO stuff. You can buy food that's not poison. Okay. However, it's 4 to 5 times more expensive than if you go to a regular supermarket. So the smart money, if you're an oligarch or if you're an oligarch adjacent, if you're somebody who's you're making $250,000 or to $500,000 a year, you send your housekeeper to Erewhon to buy your groceries, to buy you the food that doesn't give you cancer. Because if you go to the regular supermarket, then you're going to buy the food that gives you cancer. And so I think that's part of the game, because paying to not get what you don't want, which is GMO and poisoned food, winds up costing a lot of money. So I think that the plan is that you make it really super expensive. You make the good food really super expensive, and that way all of the poor people are going to kill themselves by only eating what they can afford. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. Got 4 more. Why Singapore besides tax benefits? Is there any other strategic reason for it being safe from the effects of World War III? I think it's kind of out of the way. If you look at, there's a guy named military historian. He wrote what's his name? John Keegan. John Keegan wrote a book called The History of War, and he said it's very easy to not be in a war. All you have to do is be in a territory that historically doesn't have wars. And even though that Singapore was conquered by the Japanese during World War II, I think that it is in a fairly safe location where it's been a totalitarian dictatorship for about, I don't know, 30 or 40 years now. So I think that they have their control grid in place. I think that, if you litter in Singapore, you get caned in public. So it's a totalitarian state. And I think that they have complete and total control over the territory around it. And I think the tax benefits are of real value there. So I'm sure that there's other reasons. I'm not an expert on Singapore, but there it is. Let me see. Woodrock says, Peter, can you talk about occult symbolism, Wiccan, and all these 300 families, and specifically what the 6-7 meme is? I don't know what the 6-7 meme is, except 6 plus 7 is 13. Makes more sense to me than anything. 6-7. And as far as 300 families are concerned, I think that the 300 families is kind of, it's a finger in the air. I don't think there's exactly 300 families. But I probably have a PowerPoint. Let me see, that I've been working on that I can share with you. It's not finished. Share screen, window. Where did it go? Here it is. You know, you guys have all seen this, which is my power structure of the world. Prisoners of the cave, true believers, assets, handlers, the power elite oligarchy. And then one of the things that I'm working on right now is that I think of that as a side view. And I think of this as kind of like a top-down look at it. So you got prisoners of the cave. They're obviously the biggest group. And then inside of that, you have the politically motivated people, true believers. And then inside that, you have assets. Inside that, you have handlers. And inside that, you have the power elite. And it's interesting because the people who refer to the Rhodes-Milner Roundtable, like John O'Dowd and Jim McGregor, call it circles within circles. And I think this is the circles within circles, right? But then I started to look at this and I realized that that cabal chart that I've been working on, it fits inside here. Okay, so this is the power structure, the need to know compartmentalized organization of the roundtable groups and the oligarchy are arranged in this asset handler power elite center. And this is where the number 13 comes in, because there are, 6 and 13, because there's 6 branches on this tree, but there's 12 circular nodes, and then 1 node in the center, which are all replicated by the star pattern that's above the eagle's head on the seal of the Great Seal of the United States of America. So there's where your 13 comes in. But again, these are the people who are in control of the United States. It's not to say that this is a symbol of the United States. It's the symbol of the people who control the United States. So this is just another thing that I've been working on. It's not finished, and I'm not sure that I've completely thought this thing out yet, but I thought I would share it with you. So I'm going to remove this. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the 6-7 mean and the 300s, but I think about it all the time. So I'm glad that you asked the question. And if you have any thoughts on it, I'm always open to it. So you can always send an email to contact@the Duke Report, and I'll take a look at that stuff when I get around to it. All right. Woodrocks also says, how does symbolism hypnotize people? Well, symbolism can hypnotize people if you associate a symbol with an idea. And it requires a certain amount of scaffolding and then anchoring. These are hypnotic terms, but you can use it. The symbols, I don't think that in and of themselves have any kind of magical power, but it's when the symbol gets associated with an idea in somebody's psyche that they wind up. So, for example, there's a ritual in the United States of America, which is that every time there's a ball game, that people put their hand on their heart and they listen. They sing the Star Spangled Banner and they salute the flag. Right. This creates an emotional response to a symbol. The symbol is the American flag. Okay. And because American students in classrooms, at least when I was a kid, you started off school every day by pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, blah, 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 right? You put your hand on your heart and you look at the symbol. This is a way of inculcating a hypnotic suggestion about what that symbol means, okay? And by the time a lot of kids turn 18, they think that they are willing to risk their life in order to fight for that symbol. That's a hypnotic state that they're in, okay? They've been hypnotized into believing that this red, white, and blue symbol is something that they should go risk their life for. And so there are a lot of different ways to initiate people into a belief where a symbol. I mean, how many times have you seen a movie where, you know, it's a movie where a Napoleonic movie or a Roman battle where the standard bearer is wounded and the flag is about to fall down and somebody runs up and they grab the flag and they run. I think the movie Glory does that with Matthew Broderick. You know, that's hypnosis. Okay. Risking your life for a piece of cloth is hypnosis. It just is. People go, well, it symbolizes something much bigger. That thing that it symbolizes is a hypnotic suggestion. So, I'm probably massacring this subject, but study hypnosis. You'll figure it out. What about calling them the Khazarian Mafia? I think that's a dialectic. I think there's a lot of evidence that the Khazarians are just the Northern European. The Khazarians are the European converted Jews, and it may be the Sephardim who are in charge, who are actually the direct descendants of the Phoenicians. And calling them the Khazarian Mafia narrows the scope of who they actually are. I think that the Northern Europeans who got slaughtered during World War II and then are kind of blamed for controlling the world right now, I think that that's a psyop. I've gone down that rabbit hole, and I think that's a psyop, which is why I'm not going on the most anti-Semitic person show on the internet. Let me see. Can you be more specific about why you believe George Webb is compromised? I haven't said that George Webb is compromised. So that's a presupposition. That's words that you're putting into my mouth. And now you're asking a question. This is called the cause-effect complex equivalency. So for people who were paying attention, what they've done is that they've created a presupposition here, and then they've attached it to a cause-effect statement. Is it because, and you can always see that if you see the word because is a complex equivalence. This happened because of this. Okay. So is it because of his efforts to forge ties with podcasters who have similarities to Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owens? So this is a scam, this comment, Redtail-S3P, scammer. And because you're putting words in my mouth and then you're creating conclusions that aren't there. I've said on numerous broadcasts, I made whole videos about it, and I have posted all of those things in the last couple of weeks. And again, I'll go back to my slides here, and I will go back to, oh, I don't have mice here. Okay, I'll take this off. Yeah, I'll take that off. People, there's assets and there's, well, maybe I will use this, sorry. But I'll jump back to this slide. And I'll take the comment out so that I can see it, so you can see the slide. So prisoners of the cave are people who are getting their news off of TikTok and CNN. Okay. True believers are people who are Republicans or Democrats or climate extremists or white supremacists or anti-Semites or Zionists who have joined a cause because they're frustrated about something. On top of that are people who are used to manipulate the groups below them. Assets are people who are affecting the belief systems of true believers and prisoners of the cave who are working on behalf of the power elite unknowingly. Okay? How does that work? It's because they're fed information. Okay? People are giving Candace Owens and George Webb and Ian Carroll information about Egyptian jets. Does it mean it's not true? No. Does it mean that they're lying when they do stories about that? No. Does it mean that they're trying to do their best to deliver good information to their audiences? Probably. Okay? That doesn't mean that any of them are bad. Okay? It means that they're trying to make sense of the world based on the information that is being provided to them and that they are sourcing out there in the world. Okay? And that doesn't necessitate them being a bad person. It doesn't necessitate. That's why I started this whole broadcast today coming from a place with love. George Webb is my friend. I like George Webb. Okay? Courtney Turner is my friend. I like Courtney Turner. We disagree on things sometimes, and it's okay. It's totally okay. Right? One of us will be proved correct. Okay? And George and Ian and Candace, I believe that they all think they're doing the right thing. I think Tucker believes that he's doing the right thing. Okay? And the difference between me and them is that I don't have a show every day. Okay? And I have the ability to kind of drill down on things that they haven't drilled down on. And they'll get around to it. They'll get around to it. And so I think that you say you're not trying to scam me. Can you be more specific about why you believe George Webb is compromised? I have never said that George Webb is compromised. Okay. So you're putting words in my mouth. Okay. So if you say that you're not trying to scam me, then tell me why this is not a scam, because this is a scam. Okay. Is it because his efforts to forge ties with podcasters who have similarities to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens? Again, you're creating a complex equivalence there. I think that you need to check the way that you're thinking about things, okay? Because you're making assumptions here, and then you're spewing your assumptions out into the world as if they are facts, okay? And they're not. They're crap. They're bullshit, okay? So I'm done with this comment. So let's see what your follow-up is. Definitely not trying to scam you. I asked this based on other videos of yours I saw. Well, I've never said that about George Webb, ever, on any podcast, okay? And I apologize if I misunderstood you. You did misunderstand me, okay? George is my friend, okay? And I think that George believes what George is doing, okay? I don't think he's trying to scam anybody, all right? He's a true believer, okay? He's right here on this chart. George is a true believer, okay? And in the situation where you get handed information and it works to the advantage of the power elite, then you wind up becoming an unwitting asset. I have said on the show numerous times, I was an asset from 2014 until January 6th, 2021. I was an asset of the empire because I believed in the dialectic. I believed in right-wing conservatism, like that was a real thing. And I was going to use my skill as a photographer in order to make people like Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec and Mike Waller and Dave Riaboy and all the Benny Johnson and Chuck Johnson and all these other people. I was going to make them look good, which I did as a photographer. What I didn't realize is that I was feeding a dialectic. That is, and do I think all of those people are bad people? No, I don't think they're all bad people. Okay. I do think that they may be true believers. Okay. They may believe in this false dichotomy, this dialectic. Okay. And they are, the Zionists are against the anti-Zionists and the Muslims are against the anti-Muslims. And, all of these constructs are designed to divide us, okay? And as long as you're in one of those constructs, which is why Jesus said, love your enemies, okay? And he meant it, okay? He meant it, all right? You got to love George Webb and you got to love Ian Carroll and you got to love Tucker Carlson because you're not going to be able to convince them, okay, that something that they may say isn't correct if you don't approach them with love, okay? So I asked this based on your other videos you saw. No, you didn't see that. You imagined that or you hallucinated it. I accept your apology, okay? You did mention George Webb along with Ian Carroll and Candace Owens. I did, and I don't think that any of them are bad people. I pray for Candace Owens, okay? I can't imagine the amount of pressure that Candace Owens is under. She's married to a guy who's the son of the member of the House of Lords, who apparently made all of his money transferring a lot of wealth from the United States to Great Britain, which is how he, when the Enron scam fell apart, which is how he became a member of the House of Lords. The House of Lords, he was inducted into the House of Lords in the City of London. Okay? So if Candace Owens is pointing fingers at Israel and Egyptian jets right now, and she's got 4 children with a son of a member of the House of Lords, then I can't imagine what the amount of vectorial pressure she's under is. It's a lot. Okay? So you have to love Candace Owens, you have to love George Webb, and you have to love Ian Carroll and Tucker Carlson and understand where they're coming from. That's why this ontology is so important, okay? You need to understand this power structure of the world, because if you do, things will start to make sense, okay? I'm trying to think of who's the best example of Steve Bannon. I think Steve Bannon is a handler, okay? And I know that because my business partner used to get phone calls from Steve Bannon 5 times a day telling him what to do. Okay, that's what handlers do. Handlers tell assets what to do. Okay, in the journalism business, there's a lot of, I would say there's a much bigger percentage of Mockingbird media than most people even understand. Because if you're a podcaster and you need to I do a podcast once a week right now. Okay. But if you're doing a podcast every day, you got to have something to talk about all the time. You either need to have a staff or you need to have people feeding you stuff. A lot of the people who are feeding you stuff are intelligence assets. Okay. And they may come to you as a friend. They may come to you as a colleague. Okay. But they may be representing the Office of Naval Intelligence or the CIA or Mossad or MI6. You know, why is it that everybody who's got an English accent is blaming Israel? Okay. It's funny, right? You got to laugh. So let's not create derision. I want us all to figure this out. I want us all to figure this out together. Like I said, if Tucker Carlson doesn't trust me, then have Guido Preparata on your show, Tucker. Fly him from Umbria in Italy, or go, better yet, Tucker, fly to Italy on your way back from Qatar, okay? And stop and go sit in a cafe someplace and have a conversation with Guido Preparata about how the world really works, about how your buddies in the Pilgrim Society shafted the people of the United States of America and are traitors and deserve, if not to be dealt with using the capital punishment for traitors, just shipped back to Great Britain or some other empire colony. They need to leave. Sebastian Gorka needs to go. Like, forget about it. Like, get out of here. You know, he's not an American. He's a traitor. With that, a bit of spice to end the show. I will. I'll call it from here, and let you guys know that if you want to support this show again, like I said, Christmas is coming up. I could really use it. I've got an extra $700 a month in rent that I've got to figure out a way to make up. And so if you could give paid subscriptions to people as presents, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, the T-shirts are in the T-shirt shop, and you could leave me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com, which you get to at buymeacoffee.com/The Duke Report. And with that, I will see you next Tuesday, which is a joke. And then, if not, then I've got all kinds of Substack posts that I've got all queued up and ready to go. All right. Somebody said, have you ever met Bannon and George Webb together? No. George Webb has always wanted to meet Bannon. He's never met him, as far as I know. And I met Steve Bannon once at a bar on the roof of the library in Bryant Park, New York. And with that, I will say hasta la vista, baby.